Woman Who Chat is sponsored by Grow Radio. Grow Radio is an online radio station dedicated to bringing you a different podcast on the hour every hour. I'm proud that Woman Who Chat is played on Grow Radio every Tuesday at 3 p.m. and Friday at 8 a.m. and to be part of their podcasting community. If you want to listen to the station, explore their shows, get your podcast onto Grow Radio, and check out many of the blogs to improve your podcasting skills. So head over to growradio.uk today. Welcome to Woman Who Chat, and today I'm chatting with Lyn Lapworth of ECO for All. Hello, Lyn.
Hi, Sandra. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. Before we get into this whole conversation about sustainability, which is your thing, and it's a bit of mine too, just tell us exactly what you do and a bit about your journey, really, as to how you arrived here.
Gosh, I could go quite far back. I'll give you the short version. So probably at 17 years old, so quite a number of years ago, I kind of came across vivisection posters and all of that sort of thing and was a bit horrified, and the ethical me was born. So from then on, really, I was really careful about the companies that I bought from. And then obviously bit by bit over the years, we've heard more about climate change, the impact we're having on the environment. And then 11 and a half years ago, I had my daughter, and that really made me think about the future. So we have been living sustainably as possible at home for coming up 12 years probably. And then I had people asking me questions about where I bought things from, how do I do that? And oh, what do you think about this company? And then the real kind of thing that just resonated with me was somebody that said, it's really expensive being eco-friendly, isn't it? And that just horrified me. So from then on, I vowed to make it my mission to make sustainable living as affordable as possible. And here we are.
Here you are with the Eco for All. So when did you start the business? Has it been going a long time or?
No, not really. It's just over a couple of years that I actually registered it, founded the business, but I spent quite a bit of time figuring out what that looked like. So yes, I know there's lots of areas that people can make small changes in at home, but how do I structure that? So I took a bit of time, used from friends and family members as guinea pigs. My mum, who, hopefully she won't mind me saying, is in her mid-70s, has made some really significant changes, which I'm quite proud of her for, obviously. So what it now looks like is a series of online sessions, all live with me at the minute. So they're themed. So I start with cleaning and laundry because that's kind of, a really nice, easy in. But they are on themes such as reducing plastic packaging in your food shopping, reducing food waste, recycling, technology. There's obviously a whole host of areas, beauty and bathroom, gift shopping, those sorts of things. And then the key bit that really adds value is in between all of that, I offer like a personal WhatsApp chat. So I basically people's eco-personal shopper, because that's how they really learn the skills themselves.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I went through a sustainability program myself, which is great that, they're offering this for companies. But when you're an individual, when you're a sole trader or whether you're a solopreneur, you think you can't make a difference. And people sitting at home will think, well, what can I do? I'm only one person. But I don't think they realise if every one person did something, then we'd be leaving a better future for our descendants, wouldn't we?
Absolutely. There's that very famous phrase, isn't there? Oh, it's only one straw, said 8 billion people. So if we remove that one straw or that one plastic toothbrush or, that one piece of plastic packaging, that's 8 billion people across the planet having a small impact.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I looked at what I was doing. I mean, I'm sustainable, but I'm not totally sustainable, because I like what I like and I buy it. But I've rethought the way that I purchase, with clothes now, I look for sustainable brands. My car, I've just switched to electric. Others say that's not sustainable, but it's a whole different debate. It's making those little small changes and thinking, well, yes, okay, I'm only one person, but I can make a difference.
This is it. And that's actually the area that I focus on. So because we're all busy, we're all overwhelmed, there's so much life admin. So I break it down, and it is the small changes, it's the manageable swaps, It's maybe just introducing a couple of nice new brands that do things a bit better. But like you say, we can all do a few things, and then that mounts up, and ultimately it finds that you've made mindset changes and you're looking at things a different way, and then a few months later you're sort of on a real road to sustainability.
And it's a thing, I mean, I occasionally purchase carrier bags, but I reuse and reuse them. I've always got one in the car, so I don't buy another one. I've always got one in my handbag, so I don't buy another one. And it's just those little things that I think consciously I'm more aware of now, and using public transport as well. It's getting the train to Birmingham rather than driving, and just thinking, can I do this a different way? Or is there a different way that I can perhaps think about, my environmental impact?
Yeah. And the answer is there's always a better option, always a better decision to be made. It sounds really geeky, but I don't make a decision now without thinking about the impact or the end game or where that will end up, so there's it's just embedded, it's in my DNA now. So I just want to help people do the same.
So, I was reading up recently about people wanting to make a difference but not knowing where to start. Obviously, they can come and talk to you. But, people that just want a couple of tips and things. I mean, people were talking about pre-loved clothes and things like that, the waste. And I saw the picture, I don't know, it was you shared the picture.
It was me.
Of the retail dump in the mountains, the Chilean mountains, and basically it was all the stock of fashion that hadn't sold, and it was just dumped in the mountains there to do whatever it does, and it probably won't sort of go into the landscape and be sustainable. It will just sit there, and it will eventually become a problem when it washes down the mountain and into the rivers and into the sea.
Massively, because of course most of those sorts of clothing are man-made fibers, and of course that now breaks down into microplastics, which is a whole other thing. But I know it was a shocking image, wasn't it?
If somebody wanted to just sort of dip their toe in the water, as it were, and just start looking into this, or perhaps think, well, what one thing could I do? Where would you suggest they start?
Okay, so there's a really easy one, and this one kind of is obvious when you sit and think about it, but not so much kind of when you're just rushing around from day to day. So one of the things that I sort of really strongly suggest is that just on your kitchen bin at home, just put the word landfill. Yeah, so have a sticker that just says landfill, so that you remember every time you put something in, that then will end up in landfill, and that that's going to be growing. And it's just a shift in mindset, like I say. So that's a really kind of obvious place to start, but it's just that reminder.
Big thing I have noticed, my wheelie bins get taken out alternate weeks, once a fortnight. My blue top bin, which is my recycling bin, that goes out once a fortnight along with my garden waste, and then the alternate week is my general waste. And I'm finding that I'm not filling those anymore, and that they're not going out every fortnight.
Brilliant.
Especially my blue bin, because things like if I went to the supermarket, I'd be putting things in bags. I'd have lots of plastic containers for things or whatever. But I'm actually choosing, because I eat what I call sustainably as well. I mean, I grow my own vegetables and salads in the summer.
The hydro veg kit.
Yeah. So, I've just been out and picked some lettuce leaves, to have with some salad for some lunch. And it's interesting that had I gone to the supermarket, I would have bought salad in a packet. That packet would have gone into my general waste and would have got thrown away, and leftover foodstuffs and things like that. Whereas if I go to my own hydro veg, or I go to my local greengrocer, I buy the food I need and the food I want. So quite more often than not, because I live on my own, I shop not daily, but I shop per meal, rather than shopping for a whole week and then end up throwing half of it away. And it's packaging. So it's little things like that, isn't it?
It really is. It really is. I mean, so the journey that we've been on, I mean, a few years ago, we were putting our bin out every time the bin men were coming past. Because I've been doing so much work and being so mindful of it, we have yet to put our bin out. We've put it out once so far this year, the general waste bin, and it will probably be 3, maybe 4 times over the 12 months that we'll be putting our general waste bin out. So, but it's nowhere near as difficult as it sounds. This is the thing. It's just a few shopping habit tweaks, a few mindset tweaks, you know, introducing a few new routines, those sorts of things. And it just builds up. It just builds up. I mean, I'm monitoring it, obviously, because I'm conscious of it, but it crept up. And yeah, it's quite proud of it, to be honest.
I think what has been sad is there were a plethora of these pop-up shops in the local areas that sold refillables. So you could go along with your container and just get your top-ups for whatever it was you wanted. And a lot of them are closed down because they just haven't been supported.
Yeah. Well, you see, this goes back to the, you know, the eco-friendly living's really expensive, because there is that mindset. And yes, they're small independents, but they are selling things without the packaging. So you're saving the cost of the packaging. You know, probably another really good tip is, if you want to shop in one of these zero waste stores, is save your cereal packets, you know, the little plastic bags out of your cereal packets, because they're much lighter to take and easier to refill and bring home, and then you can decant them into pretty jars or whatever you'd like to, you know, display them in at home. But for the staple things, they are so competitive. They really are competitive. And a lot of the products might seem maybe a little bit more expensive, but maybe that's just because they last longer, you know? So it's just looking at it with a different perspective. But I'm quite lucky. I've got 3 zero waste stores in fairly close proximity, and they are the friendliest people. You will get the best customer service experience at these shops. So there's an online directory where you can look up your nearest zero waste store, but they have got to be supported. They really have. It's critical for all our futures. So yeah, I would highly recommend looking them up.
And let's look at recycling, because recycling clothes, you've got, you know, online things such as Vinted now and things like that, where you can recycle. You've got the charity, although a lot of charity shops won't take anymore because they got the fallout of the pandemic. You know, everybody cleared out during the pandemic. The charity stores stopped. Well, in fact, the ones by me have stopped accepting because they've just got an abundance of clothing and all sorts. But yes, I mean, the clothes banks are there. You know, there's lots of places like that. Online resources such as Vinted, and people do. It is acceptable now to buy pre-loved clothes, isn't it?
Massively so. I mean, I know the sort of the younger generation, shall we say, they're always on the likes of Vinted. And there is, I do have like a sustainable gift shopping session where I teach you how to get the best out of Vinted and even use that in the most sustainable way, because there are tips and tricks for Vinted. But my daughter, who's 11 going on 14, she's like, Mummy, if I do this and this job around the house, can I buy something Vinted? So she'll go through my account and favorite things. And then she's doing jobs, her chores, so she can buy pre-loved. My kids, I haven't bought them new clothes for, I think it's coming up 5 years, maybe more than 5 years. So, and it's so much easier and so much more affordable.
Yeah.
You know, I kitted myself out. Sorry, Sandra.
Yes, I suppose they wear them and then you can put them back on Vinted or wherever and recycle again if they haven't worn them out.
Definitely. I mean, I bought a whole new wardrobe because now we're doing face-to-face a little bit more, and had the pleasure of meeting you on Sunday. You know, I needed to sort of update my wardrobe, and I bought 8 or 9 items, like a monsoon dress with a tag on that cost me £25. Brand new, that would have been over 100. So it's just remembering that those make it so much more affordable.
And, you know, we are a society where we do buy stuff online. And I've done it myself, and I've gone through my clothes and I have got stuff with the tag still on. You know, I quite often buy something and think, I'll get into that one day. And you never do.
So we all,
you know, if you can put on a site and they are brand new clothes, I mean, I get something, rather than it sitting doing nothing in the wardrobe, I'll get something for it. I'll create space and then it gets recycled and moves its way. And it's just a lot better. So what other things should we be looking at then? So we can look at the home, we can look at, as you say, the different rooms in our home, what we're using, what we're putting on ourselves, what we're wearing, what we're as skin products, what we're using as washing products.
Oh, so much. I mean, I'm really reluctant to say it, but what we eat, and the one area I would say spend more in is on what you eat.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you sit and think about the process of growing crops, it's really labour intensive. You've got to have the right amount of water, the right weather conditions, you've got to invest in the nutrients in the soil. And it's awful to say because there's a cost of living crisis, but we do not pay enough for the food that we eat, the fresh fruit and veg. We don't pay enough for it. And if you grow your own, you actually know what's involved, you know, keeping the bugs away, you've got to make sure that there's the right water. You know, it's so critical that we actually appreciate the food that we eat. So really looking at, if you can't afford to buy organic, then growing your own. We've grown some tomatoes with my 7-year-old son. We got him involved. We didn't even need to buy seeds. We just chopped a tomato in half. It's got the seeds inside it. So we picked 3 different brands, spread them out into pots. We now have 40 tomato plants.
Wow.
So I've been giving them away. I've given some to my son's school as well. It's just so easy. So if you can afford a bag of compost, you can afford to grow your own.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's just the seedlings. Once you get them started, there's no stopping them. I've got tomatoes in my hydro veg, and the tomatoes are there, so they're ready. They just need to ripen now. But even at the end of the season, when I crop them all, I can't keep up with the amount that I produce. I make tomato chutney. I make some soups. I can freeze things down. I've even got a nifty way of doing sun-dried tomatoes in the oven. But it's share
that with me.
I do different things, and, you know, there's a way of keeping things. And then what I do with my soil, when I wash the soil off, because I have to wash the soil off the plants to put them in the hydro veg, the lady that comes, and Sue Tonks is a member of my academy, she shows me that actually that water, put it back on the plants in the garden. Don't throw it down the drain. That's good. There's nutrients in there for the plants, you know, keep recycling the water as well. So
definitely. Well, did you know, so if you save the water from when you cooked pasta or rice or even vegetables, if you save that water, there's a lot of nutrients in there that you can put on your plants. So don't waste your pasta water. I mean, there's some tips that say you can actually wash your dishes with pasta water, but I prefer to put it on my plants, to be quite honest.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's fascinating talking to you. And obviously we'll put the links to your website and everything so people can find out more and perhaps, you know, further their sustainability journey with you. But I always like to ask my guests to leave my audience with a top tip or piece of advice. So what would that be?
Oh, okay, I've given away a few. So here's an easy one that I shared at the beginning of the year, because I do a Tuesday top tip. So that's just for people that maybe haven't got the time to perhaps think about my course. So don't know whether you class it as a top tip, but simply putting the pan, when you're cooking, put the lid on, because that means you're boiling your water quicker. And then you can turn it off again a few minutes before it's finished cooking, and it will carry on cooking. And that will save 5 minutes energy per day, but that then amounts to a couple of hours a week, 24 hours over a year, you know. So it's just thinking about those little saves and how much they mount up to, especially when you get a whole household doing something. You know, I've got a client that have halved the amount of clothes washing that they do because of some of the tips that I've shared in our group.
Wow.
So,
and that in turn has the impact on the energy bills, because they are at the peak at the moment. So some of these tips, which will actually be more sustainable, will actually save energy as well.
Yeah, and time. And when you wash your clothes, they degrade slightly, so you're making your clothes last longer, you know. So if you can reduce the amount you're washing, there you go, there's a couple of tips. Then it has so many benefits, so many wins, you know, the less ironing, less washing, less water, less energy, less microplastics. It's just, so many wins.
I'd encourage our audience to connect with you and to find out more, and obviously to do your course. It's been great chatting to you, Lyn. That's Lyn Lapworth from Eco for All. Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.